Good afternoon. Okay, I'm just going to get my settings. Bear with me 1 minute so I can see all of your comments. There we go. Great. Okay, super brilliant to be with you all today. Oh, all righty. The Light Warrior Summit, day 2. Here we go. For those of you who don't know who I am, I will do a quick introduction. My name is Tash Ashwin. I'm the CEO and founder of Ashwin Publishing and the facilitator, the co-facilitator of this amazing summit. And the person behind the scenes, pulling together all of the strings for the Warriors of Light book and the Light Warrior Summit. So it's a real pleasure and an honor to be here today. I'm so excited to be delving into one of my favorite topics with you for my presentation for the summit, or my workshop. I don't really like that term, presentation. And before we get started, I'd love to take a moment to ask you, where in the world do you live? Please say hello in the comments. I think I can see Donna. Yes, I can see Donna, and Nicolette is here. Hello, beautiful Nicolette, welcome. Let me know where in the world you're joining me from. If you're here live, pop a hashtag live. And if you're catching the replay, please pop in a hashtag replay into the comments right now so that we can energetically bring your energy into this little field, this little grid that we're creating right here, right now. Hey, Jules. Hey, Steph. Beautiful to have you guys here. All righty. So today I'm talking about a really powerful topic, a topic that has been kind of like one of the overarching archetypal themes for me and for my life. And coincidentally, it is actually on the topic of archetypal energies. I wanted to share with you this little transmission, this workshop around how we can map the topography of your personal mythology and uncover what I call your sacred soul story. So the reason why you might want to do this, there's many reasons, right? But for those of you who are in business, I'm going to speak to that first. And then we're going to speak to the more, I guess, the wider personal development purpose. So if you're in business, hi, Rachel. Hi, Erin. Great to have you here. If you are in business and you are in the realms of creating offerings and working in the transformation space, hey, Craig, welcome. And you are, sharing your stuff on social media, you're bringing together your community, like you're placing your flag in the ground and saying, this is what I'm here for. This is my soul mission. I'm here for the betterment of humanity. I'm here to support my clients to put in, insert the outcome that you facilitate here. One of the most powerful forms of content creation you may or may not know or have experimented with is actually the power of storytelling and the power of story. So I want you to keep this wider context for what we talk about today, because we're going to be looking at your personal mythos, your personal mythology, and your sacred soul story, and how you can tap into a deeper understanding of your life's journey and of, the reasons why you're here, the big key life themes that you have come into this incarnation to learn and to play with and to dance within. But there's the wider perspective as well around, because as a business coach, I actually call myself a business alchemist as well as a publisher. I always love relating my workshops back to business and back to the power of sharing your soul's work. I believe this is one of the most powerful things we can do as souls who are here to emit change upon the planet and to affect change upon the planet. If you are a soul working in the space of soulful entrepreneurialism, meaning the work you do in your business you truly believe is your soul's work, this is why you're here, you cannot imagine doing anything else, then you are what I call a soulful entrepreneur. And I believe you are one of the most powerful and empowering people on the planet. So keeping that wider perspective, and I want you to kind of keep this in mind, your story, your personal mythos is going to be so very deeply connected to your soulmate client's story and to their personal mythos. If you are in the soulful entrepreneurialism space, which I'm guessing you are if you're in business and you're right here in my field, then your personal experience is what usually, like the process of transformation that you have been on over your life's journey, will be generally the thing that you help your clients to do as well. right? So if you look back over the life's journey that you've had and the experiences that you've had, and you might find like the key turning points, and we're going to delve into this more as we go through, the key turning points in your life and the key transformations that you experienced and the key things that you overcame, and then look at the work you do with your clients, you'll generally find that it's very, very aligned. Your clients are usually a couple of stages before you on the same journey, or at least on a very similar journey. So having this high level perspective of your soul's path and your life's journey, and doing what I call mapping the topography of your mythology, and I'm going to break that down because I know that's like a lot of long syllables right there. If you imagine you're like a bird flying over your life, right? And you look down from that bird's eye view, you might have some experience of this perspective if you've done any timeline therapy or anything like that. It's essentially coming up out of the current reality and seeing your life from that higher perspective. You will see the topography, right? Like you're in a plane and you look down and you can see all the mountains and all of the oceans and the vast landscape that you're flying over. The same thing is very true for your experience here in this incarnation, right? You have a topography that you can map very, very powerfully. And when you do that, when you map the topography of your mythology, right, meaning the mythological perspective of your life's path, looking at the symbolism, looking at the archetypal energies and influences, looking at the great contrast and polarity between light and dark. And this is the realm that we're going to play in today. When you have that high level perspective, when you map the topography of your mythology, of your personal journey, you can create like the most incredible creative inspiration comes from there. The most incredible creative inspiration. So I often have a lot of people who will come to me, for one of these book projects that I publish, or for some more business-oriented coaching, but particularly in the publishing and communications wing of my business. And they'll say something along the lines of, I don't believe that I'm a writer. I'm not a very good writer. I'm not super creative. I don't have very much creative inspiration. This often happens. And this actually was me as well. I used to have this belief. Let me know if that's you, if you've ever had that belief before that you're not particularly creative. Everyone in my family was creative, and I had this belief in my mind that I wasn't. It was a total story, right? And when I cracked through this belief, I was able to see, actually, I'm a creative just simply because I exist. I am creative. I create simply with the power of my existence. And when I look over my life and my life's journey, and like the great heroine's journey, for want of a better phrase, I can find the most incredible creative inspiration for my personal creative journeying, for the books that I publish and that I write, for my business's content creation, for my message, for my journaling. Like there is not even a shred of lack when it comes to creative inspiration. Your life's experience, your life's journey has gifted you with very particular and precise themes, archetypal energies, and symbols. And when you learn to read the language of your unconscious mind, which is the language of symbols, the language of dreams, which is the language of symbols, the language of the archetypal energies that intersect with you as a being, a sovereign being inside of this incarnation, you will literally have so much creative inspiration. So, Erin, hello. Lucy, hello. Steve, hello. Beautiful. Great to have you all here. Let's take a moment to take a breath and close our eyes. And I'm just going to scratch my nose a little bit because it often happens when I go live, my nose starts getting really itchy. Anyway, let's take a minute, take a breath. I often like to start my workshops by doing some somatic work to get us into our bodies. And if you're sitting in a chair, I want you to just move your shoulders a little bit, maybe move your neck, get a little bit of movement happening inside your body. And I want you to take in a big deep breath for 3 and out for 5. And again, breathing in for 3 and out for 5. And one more time, taking a breath in for 3 and out for 5. And I'm going to just take you on a little process today, a little exploration of your inner space, of your inner landscape. And we're going to be, for want of a better word, like hunting for symbols, for archetypal energies. And what do I mean by archetypal energies? I presume most of you know that, but an archetype is a collective energy. It's a collective concept that we breathe life into throughout the collective neurons that form the collective unconscious. Okay, so Carl Jung, you're probably familiar with him. Let's see, a lot of his life's work is centered around the teachings behind archetypes. So I want you to imagine that you can kind of, or visualize that you can climb into your brain. And inside your brain, somewhere, wherever you feel guided to go to, you'll find like a little trapdoor. And this is a trapdoor that we're going to descend down into. So wherever you're guided to go, there's going to be somewhere in your unconscious that will be represented by the symbol of a trapdoor. And once you find it, I want you to open it. And I want you to peer down into it, like you're sitting on the edge of this trapdoor that descends all the way down. And you might even like to lower your chin a little bit so that you get that looking down sensation, like you're looking down over a flight of stairs or down over a balcony. And down in there is the depths of your unconscious mind. We can also deem it the collective unconscious. This is the realm you enter when you dream, when you sleep. The world of the unconscious mind, as I mentioned before, is the world of symbolism. It's the world of archetypal energies. And inside your unconscious, you will find the symbols, the totems, the archetypes that are very particular to you and to this journey in this incarnation. So if it feels safe to do so, I'm going to invite you to ease your little bum onto the very edge of that trapdoor and begin your descent down, whether that's simply jumping or whether there's a staircase that you will descend down into. And as you descend into the unconscious darkness, you will pass through a state of darkness. And on the other side of that darkness will be light. When we descend down into the unconscious or down into the underworld or down into the depths, this is often spoken to with the framework of the hero's journey. And this act of descending down into the depths of our unconscious mind is very symbolic of that. So as you descend down into the depths, you might notice some things, you might notice some symbols, whether they are animals, whether it is more symbolic, whether it is a sense or a feeling. We're not going to spend too long down in here, but I want to just familiarize you with this place, because in this place resides some of the most powerful creative inspiration you will ever find. So as you just begin to feel into this space, I want you to notice what it is that you see, sense, or feel, or hear. Does it feel comfortable to be here? Does it feel scary, safe, or not safe? And the more you become familiar with the space of your unconscious, and the more you give yourself permission to actually enter into the realms of your unconscious mind, which takes great practice, the more you'll be opening yourself up to the world of symbolism and the world of archetypes and the world of untapped creative potential. So maybe there's one symbol that you can find down here, whether it's an animal or a shape or a memory, and just bring that with you as we come back up into our conscious mind, climbing back up or floating back up that staircase or that tunnel, and coming back, landing in your feet and landing back in your body. And maybe you'd like to let us know in the comments if there was a symbol that you found, or an animal or something that revealed itself to you. You can spend some time inquiring into that. So the power of the unconscious, the power of the limitless space or the liminal space, really cannot be underestimated. And the reason why so many of us actually avoid entering into this space is because it is often governed by fear. We can be extremely fearful of what we don't know, of what we don't understand. We can be fearful of, quote unquote, the darkness. And I wanted to read you something, a quote that I actually read only this morning by Richard Rudd, the founder of Gene Keys. So I'm going to read this to you. Unless you face your own unique fear archetypes, you cannot open the portal to inner transmutation. If you do not look your adversity square in the face and realize that it is the very manifestation of your own archetype, you miss the whole point and purpose of your life. Most of the world is still waiting to begin this process. Many who have begun it have become trapped in some therapeutic system that takes away their responsibility, thus further stalling the process. Facing your shadow is a lonely business, and it happens through the process of your natural destiny. It is the thing right in front of your nose that you try to avoid the most. It will not yield to being fixed. It will not be resolved through your mind, and it will keep coming back at you again and again. It cannot be sidestepped or given to another. Your suffering is a magic mirror. It's yours to own, to appreciate, and to accept. Only when you finally stop trying to avoid it can it show you its magic. Now, that quote spoke to me really powerfully about what I'm talking about today, because in a lot of the work that I do with my authors, it's all about descending into the depths, right? It goes deep. We go deep into the power of your journey, of your story, of the archetypal energies and motifs that have presented themselves to you. What I'm beginning to understand moving into the next book project that I am facilitating is that this process of descent, the crossing of the threshold, the act of surrendering to the initiation that we might experience through a whole host of different life traumas or experiences, this is where the gold lies. So for those of you who, maybe like me, been gifted a very blessed life, right? I haven't personally experienced a huge amount of big T traumas, and I'm very grateful for that. It was when I birthed my first son, after the birth of my first son, when I had experienced a couple of years of very severe postnatal depression. And it was like the first time in my life that I'd really been properly depressed in the pits. And I was there for quite a long time. What I come to understand about that place in my life, though, is that when I was in this moment, or in this time, I was actually in one of the most powerful transformational experiences of my life. And I look back on that period of my life. At the time, it was like excruciating. But I look back on that and I understand that I would not be the woman I am now if it wasn't for what I experienced then. For my bathroom floor moment, when I was very close to ending things and exiting stage left. It was in that moment that I actually found my power. I found like the deepest reserves of my strength to keep going. So entering into the darkness, descending over, like through the threshold and going down into, quote unquote, the underworld is an incredibly powerful thing to do. If we have the courage to face our fear, if we have the courage to look at the things that we've been avoiding potentially our entire life. So when we're talking about uncovering our sacred soul story and mapping the topography of our life's journey and our mythos, this is the realm that I'm inviting you to enter. And it doesn't always need to be dark. It doesn't always need to be suffering based. It doesn't always need to be in the underworld and in like the real, you are the hero who's descended down into the underworld and you're down there facing those dragons and fighting those dragons and then coming back up out the other end. But it's actually what all great stories are based on. When we look at the process, the map of the hero's journey, and if you're not familiar with the hero's journey, it was first coined by a mythologist called Joseph Campbell. And it is essentially, he called it the monomyth, the one great myth that all myths are based on, that all great stories are based on, the one myth. And it is a very simple one. If you look at Harry Potter, if you look at Star Wars, if you look at any of the great mythological, fantastical movies and books, they tend to follow this process. The hero sets out on a journey. He hears a call, or she hears a call to action. Something happens that wakes her up out of her slumber and makes her realize that she needs to go on an adventure. She hears the call to action and he or she sets off on the journey. At some point along the way, she meets a mentor or someone who steps forward to guide her throughout the process. She descends down into the underworld, right? And this can be seen as either descending down into the depths of your unconscious to face your own inner demons, or whether it's something else externally that you're fighting up against, right? It might be the system. It might be an actual oppressive character. It might be, a belief system that you're coming up against and fighting and, really breaking through. But during that process of descending into the underworld and coming face to face with your dragons, your inner dragons, that is where you find your power. That is where the hero finds like the sword in the stone, so to speak. This is the world of mythology. This is the world of symbols. It is the world of archetypes. And from that place, the hero ascends back with all of this accumulated knowledge and wisdom to share with the tribe, right? And to teach and to inspire people who are going through a very similar journey. This is your life's journey, especially if you work in the space of transformation. If you work in the transformation space as a mentor, as a therapist, as a coach, as a space holder, this is your experience. This will be your experience, right? So understanding the flow of your personal mythology, what was that journey that you went on when you descended down into the underworld, when you descended down to face whoever it was, the dragons inside, the inner demons, an actual oppressive character, right? Whether it was a series of people, different people, but playing the same role. So we can uncover these mythological symbols when we look at the repeating patterns that have presented themselves to us throughout our life. So you might think, if you've ever had caught yourself going, why do I keep attracting the same kind of partners? Why do I keep attracting the same kind of friends? Or why does this situation continuously happen to me in my life? Usually it's because you haven't fully healed the driver, right? The belief that's driving it. You haven't fully understood why this particular experience is repeating itself again and again. I call this one of your key life themes. And it's very, very powerful to understand how your key life themes actually play out in your life. So you might like to pop into the comments, give me a 1 in the comments if you've noticed a repeating pattern. I have no doubt that most of you, if not all of you, have a repeating pattern in your life, right? Whether that's a particular way of operating that you live inside of, or whether it's a relationship dynamic that you've repeated, whether it's a health dynamic that you've repeated. Pop a 1 in the comments for me if you've experienced a repeating pattern inside of your life. We all do, right? And it's because it's the universe saying to you, this is your big lesson to learn. This is your big primary driver. Donna says yes, right? There's gold inside of this repetitive pattern. And when we can understand that, right, when we're down like in the minutia of our life's journey, and we're not kind of looking down from that, higher level perspective, when we can understand the gold inside of the suffering and the gold inside of the repetitive pattern, the portal that is opened up within that, we're missing out on a huge amount of potential. So in the personal development world, often, there's this phrase of like smashing your limiting beliefs. You've got to smash them to smithereens. You got to smash your limiting beliefs, right? I hear this a lot. I hear this kind of terminology, and I actually don't believe that it is the most powerful terminology we can be using. Why? Because your limiting beliefs, your pain, your suffering, it is a portal. It is a very powerful portal to transformation and to healing and to transmutation. The alchemy that happens when we can transmute something, when we can transmute a pain body or a belief system or a repetitive pattern, is the kind of alchemy that will stay with you until you die, until the day that you die. So coming down into the world of the underworld, right? Crossing the threshold, looking your fear in the eye, looking at your suffering, like really understanding the repetitive cycles that you've been through, is where the alchemy happens. It's incredibly powerful when we can understand that. So looking then, we've got like the on the ground, on the court, minutia of our life's experience. And then we have the higher level archetypal perspective, right? The mythological perspective, for want of a better word. We can see where we've got the human experience down here, right? Me and my human, and the soul's experience up here. Me and my soul, me and my higher self. And there's always going to be this axis point, right? Between being in my human and being connected into my soul, into my higher level perspective. What I love so much about the creative practice and about writing in general, and why I actually created a whole business around it and bought, an entire new publishing wing into my business, into my company, was because of the transformational potential that happens when we write our story, when we understand the minutiae of our experience. I call this your sacred soul story. So if you think about your life's journey, if you think back over, if you look at the topography of your life's journey, what could it be summarized? If you could come up with like a movie title, this is often a fun way of activating the right brain like the creative side of the brain. What would be the movie title of your life? Like if your life was a movie, what would it be? What would be the movie title? And so for me, like one of the biggest themes that I can see archetypally is like finding the courage to truly be seen. For a long time, as a little girl, I had bright red hair and I stood the fuck out, right? And I experienced a lot of bullying for that and a lot of like unwanted attention. So I shrunk in, I dyed my hair, I kind of hunched over my shoulders so as not to draw attention. So the second part of my life's journey has been the releasing of that belief that in order to avoid judgment and criticism, I had to shrink my light. I had to turn my light down. So for me, one of the core key themes has been centered around finding the courage to turn my light all the way up. And now, coincidentally or not, I don't know, that's exactly what I help my clients with. Whether it's through writing a story and publishing a book, whether it's through, taking the center stage in their business and like really claiming the power of their work, whether it's through owning the power of their story and the power of their journey and communicating from their lived experience. This is what I support my clients with. So you can see my life journey has been about learning how to become the lighthouse, learning how to turn my light all the way up, moving through all sorts of different belief systems around whether it's safe to be seen, whether it's safe to be bold. Can I really say that? You know, is it okay to be not the good girl anymore? I don't have to go out and please everyone, right? I don't have to sacrifice my, what's in my best interest in order to make someone else happy. Like moving through the alchemy within all of this for me has provided me with incredible creative potential for my personal creative practice, but also for my clients, for my messaging, and for my content creation. So my clients and my soulmate clients, like the people who are in my sphere, and if you're in business, you can probably feel this, right? When there's people around you, like they're in your vortex, they're sussing you out, they're reading your content, they're like, this woman is pretty awesome. I'm liking what she's putting down. I'm really feeling this. I can get a real sense that the people that are in my sphere, my potential soulmate clients, are dealing with the very similar experience that I deal with and have dealt with. So when I speak to my story and when I share my story of transformation, I'm accessing them at a much deeper heart level perspective. So the power of storytelling, right? We cannot underestimate it. Why? Because it's in our DNA. It's in our DNA. You have to think for millions of years, we would gather in tribes around a campfire and share stories, share personal experiences. We didn't know TV, no Netflix, right? It was through verbal word of mouth. Every single indigenous culture has this, right? And we would pass down stories, fables, fairy tales, if you will, to teach and to inspire and to warn. So this process of storytelling, it actually activates a very different part of the brain. If you're simply to create a piece of content that is not necessarily steeped in story, but might be a little bit more informational driven, it's steeped in information, then the person reading your content actually is reading that with the logical side of their brain. It activates the logic, the left brain, right? Now, if you were to share a story and to teach through story, rather than simply putting it all out there for the author to understand, for the reader to understand, but if you were to actually teach through storytelling, you're accessing a different part of the brain that is much more empathetic. It's connected to the heart. Now, if you work with women and your primary target market are women, then women, we make emotional buying decisions. We buy from people that we like, right? We buy from people that we resonate with, that we connect with at that heart space level. So incorporating your storytelling into your content creation and into your messaging is such a powerful thing to do, because people are literally reading it with a different part of their brain, which connects them deeply to their heart. They see themselves in your journey. They see their life's experiences in your life experiences, and they want to know how you did what you did. They want a piece of the pie. They want your support. They want your mentorship, especially if you are inviting them to do that, to take that, right? If you're leaving powerful calls to action. So understanding the key symbology of your life's work, as in your life's journey, and what it is that you're here to learn, what it is you're here to teach, what it is that you're here to impart upon the world is so powerful. Now, I haven't read anyone here popping in the movie title of your life. And I want you to really have a think about it. So for me, right, if I was to think about a movie title, it would be like The Girl Who Shined. Simply, The Girl Who Shined. Or The Girl Who Found the Courage to Shine. She Who Found the Courage to Shine. And so you can see, once we come up with a movie title, and there will be movie titles for every single chapter inside of your life, remembering who I am. Beautiful, Jules. Once we come up with the movie title, you can start to see the incredible creative inspiration, grief, the portal to ascension. Oh my God, Erin, that is the most beautiful, beautiful words, sentence. What I would love to invite you to do there is to take that as a title and write in response to it, right? So actually sit down, whether it's writing or speaking, right? We all have our different creative methods. For me, I love writing. I love words. I call myself a wordsmith. When I read something and I'm reading the beautiful Gene Keys book at the moment, and like, he is the most phenomenal writer. When I read something that is like beautiful, I'm like, oh, it touches something inside of me. It's almost this like orgasmic, like, oh, that sentence. It happens quite a lot when I'm reading Richard Wright in particular. I love words. I love inspiring people through words. I love helping people to write in a way that is evocative, that touches, moves, and inspires people. And let me tell you, you all have the potential to write well. You all have the potential to write a beautiful story. And it's easier if you are writing about your personal life. So there's great catharsis that comes when we write about our life, when we share our story. And as I've read before with the Richard Rudd quote around like having the courage to face your fear, having the courage to look at look into the depths and find the shadows, right? The same is true when we have the courage to write the story that scares us the most. So for me, when I actually wrote the story, I wrote a book in this book, actually, I've got it right here, The Younger Self Letters. We published this book last year and it actually hit USA Today bestseller list, huge. So we had like tens and tens of thousands of copies sold. And the journey that I went on with writing my chapter was a big one, let me tell you. So the whole premise was that we were to write a chapter to our younger self, a story to our younger self, a letter to our younger self. And I sat down for months and tried to write this chapter because I knew we were going to be putting a lot of PR and a lot of promo behind it. And I wanted it to be strategically really, really good. I wanted to strategically leverage the exposure that we would get. But every time I sat down to write the book, I couldn't. I mean, to write the story and the chapter, I couldn't. I literally could get 1 or 2 paragraphs in and that was it. And when I realized, it was like I avoided it. When I realized why, the immediate sensation of wanting to vomit was so palpable in my mouth. I could taste it. Like I heaved. And the reason was because I knew I needed to write the story about overcoming postnatal depression, about my bathroom floor moment when I, was this close to taking my life. The thought of me writing the most personal, profound, vulnerable experience and then publishing that to the world was like death. And it was, in fact, in a way, it was death, like the death of my ego, right? The death of my shadow. I was like, I can't write that. I can't let people know that, what it might discredit me. What about my I can't do that. But I knew I had to. And so I sat down in the process of writing that story. It was excruciating. It was completely and utterly excruciating. However, it was also the most cathartic and powerful release I've ever had in my life, because I connected so deeply with that part of me whom I had judged and shamed and certainly not forgiven. And so when we're writing powerful stories, when we're writing stories that like deeply touch people, the depth to which your reader will be touched is the depth to which you yourself feel the words as you write them. I've seen this happen time and time and time again. And it's the same with content creation as well. So if you're sitting down and just churning something out for the sake of being consistent, it's never going to have the same kind of impact as if you are like really feeling the words that you are writing. You're feeling it with every cell in your body. And the same, I always say this to my authors as well, right? It can be very easy, especially if you're maybe a little bit like me, where, you know, you like to be in your brain, you like to be in your head. It might be not easy for you to be in your body. And like the overwhelming instinct is to kind of leave your body where it's safe and you can be up here and you know what's going on, right? My journey has been coming into my body, feeling my feelings, feeling my experience, allowing myself to feel the full spectrum experience of life on earth. That's why we're here, right? To feel. And I wholeheartedly believe this. This is what I learned through my battle with postnatal depression. My baby, my son, taught me how to feel. Prior to that, I was frozen. I was just completely disconnected. I was completely frozen. My heart was frozen. And so the process of like healing postnatal depression, it thawed my heart out. And so now I can look back on that experience and know in every single cell of my body that that was one of the core transformational turning points for me in my life. So what's yours? And you'll have a few. I often say to my clients and authors, if you look back over your life and find 5 to 10 major turning points, you're off to a good start. If you think about, and I often use the analogy of the golden thread, right? This is for my authors who come on to do these projects with me. We talk about this. What is the golden thread that connects your journey, your story, like that transformational turning point, with the business that you currently own and the transformational results you co-facilitate with your clients? The thread that connects between the experience, your business, and the results that you facilitate. When you find that golden thread and you learn how to weave that throughout your writings, whether that's business writings, whether that's storytelling, whether that's simply writing for your personal benefit, you bring a deeper level of clarity. And importantly, your reader, they get that deeper level of clarity as well. Right? Clarity around, wow, Tasha's sharing this story about how, you know, she overcame postnatal depression. And the major thread might be, right, that experience taught her how to feel. And when she does these book projects with her clients and authors, it's about learning how to feel. It's about diving into the depths. It's about like going deep into the shadows, facing your fears and finding the courage to write it and publish it to the world. That's a beautiful golden thread that I can find between my experience, the business that I have now, and the transformational results I facilitate with my clients and for my clients. So I really encourage you to do this process where you need time to reflect. And it's a beautiful journaling experience where you look back over your life's journey and you find, I'm just finding the chat, you find 5 to 10 key turning points in your life and you give them all a movie title. Okay, so what would the movie title be for, you know, the primary one? Like if you're like me, well, it's one of the primary ones, right? That experience on the bathroom floor when I was like, am I going to do it? Am I going to do it? I don't know if I can do it. I don't want to do it, but I do want to do it. And what happened in that moment was it was like the bathroom filled up with my support team, my unseen support team, my ancestors, my grandparents. Like I felt them. They came to me in that moment when I needed them most. And it was one of the most profound experiences of my life. You will have your own experience, right? Where everything changed, everything shifted after that moment. You found that deep reservoir of strength to keep on going. You'll have a number of these. Another one for me is traveling to South America and drinking ayahuasca. Yeah, I've written about that quite a lot. You can read about that in another book that I've written called Leaders, Meet the Women, Changing the World with Their Business. So this is where when we find these different themes, these different chapters in our life, we can incorporate them into our content creation. So I'm going to have a look over here at the comments, and I want you to tell me what was the point? So say, for example, I'm going to pick Jules, and I'm going to pick Jules because I know Jules really well. So Jules, you are an amazing, amazing Reiki practitioner / cosmic cosmonaut, downloading incredible new spiritual technologies that support the ascension of the planet. Look, imagine that, right? I'm surrounded by the most amazing women and men. So if we think maybe about the Reiki, right? Like that decision that you were launching another live Reiki certification, a really beautiful experience that you could write about and use in storytelling would be like, what was your first experience of Reiki? What was the turning point when you decided to say yes to studying Reiki? When you were studying Reiki, what was the major aha moment you had? Maybe you could even write about like an experience working with your clients. And I know you have written about this, but you can see like taking one launch of a program or one decision that you're making in your business, you can extrapolate out a whole host of different storytelling themes and topics that you can bring in to support the launch so that it becomes something that you feel your way through rather than simply think your way through. And I really, really want to bring this home that it is about feeling, right? When you're writing, especially if you're writing your soul story, especially if it's a big, raw, vulnerable piece, and especially if you're going to be publishing it, say you choose to do a publishing project with me, and you actually make that decision to publish it to the world, by God, you have to feel your way through. You cannot think your way through. You have to feel your way every single step. So I'm going to have a look at some of the comments. We've gone on a little bit of a journey there. We've gone in a few directions I didn't actually anticipate, but I hope that I trust that it's gone beautifully, but let's have a look. So grief, the portal to ascension. Erin, I want to see you write about that. I want to see you write about that. I want to see you write about that. Lucy, the simple joys of life. Oh, I love it. I love it. The G spot, the gene spot. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. Richard, write it again. I have been writing in this vein around this subject. Beautiful, beautiful. It's so cathartic, right? Storytelling is the way of the past and the way of the future. Once it's birthed into the world, it is then released from your attachment. And that's a piece that I haven't spoken about. Thank you. This is an incredibly powerful way that we can unhook ourselves from our story. This is a big part of what I wanted to share. Unhook ourselves from the grip of our story is to actually go through this process of catharsis with writing our story and letting it go out into the world, letting it go, right? It's like we can let that part of our life go. I used to think about the chapter I wrote for the Younger Self Letters, I used to think about that part of my life with condemnation for a long time. And it wasn't until I wrote that chapter that I sobbed, I cried, and I forgave myself. I forgave that younger version of me who didn't know any better at the time, right? So this incredible power of feeling and releasing that part of ourselves. Because every time someone else actually reads our story, it's like it touches a part of them, right? It inspires them in a way. It gives them the courage to share their story. They see themselves in your journey. It is so, so powerful. My thread with my clients, I think, is teaching we're always in a constant state of birth, death, and rebirth. Oh, Erin, maybe you need to talk to me about my next book project because it is very much centered around this theme. And I'm going to talk about this in a sec. Such a healing to share, one of the darkest moments in my life. Absolutely. So I wanted to share with you the next title for Ashwin Publishing's 5th multi-author book, collaborative book project. This is a very powerful title for me. It's been dropping in very slowly over the last 2 months. I'm like, I can feel it, but I haven't quite been able to articulate it until last week when the title dropped in. So the title is Threshold: Stories of Initiation. Very powerful, very, very big energy. And in this project, I'm doing something I've never done before. Okay, so this is the 5th book project that I've published. I've done this 4 times. This will be the 5th time. And I truly feel like I understand now the process on such a deeper, more embodied way. So the power of these projects, these book projects, yes, it's about publishing a book to the world, but it is so much more about, it is a transformational crucible That's what these projects are. And the more we can descend into the energy of the book and the theme of the book and how this actually unfolds for you, the more transformation is available. So Threshold, Stories of Initiation, will be sharing the stories of initiation, right? Birth, death, and rebirth, stories of grief and loss, stories of unforeseen health crisis, stories of spiritual awakenings, but the moments when you don't realize it's a spiritual awakening, like you think your world is falling down around you. And it reminds me of this amazing Adyashanti quote, if I can remember it. It's like I'll put it into the group, but it's something along the lines of, everyone thinks enlightenment is a beautiful process, but enlightenment is actually the destruction of everything you thought you knew. Everything you thought you knew. So those moments in your life when your life suddenly crumbles down around you and you look out into a life that looks completely different to what it once looked. I believe every one of us has had these experiences. They are moments and times of initiation, times when we are being tested, times when we are, the invitation is to descend into the underworld, to face the fear, to face the shadow, to fight the dragons and the demons, where we will find our inner strength and come out the other side with gifts and wisdom to share. So Threshold, this project, the Threshold project, is going to be simultaneously a book writing project where we will publish the book, but we're also going to be doing a lot of underworld initiatory shadow work. It's going to be a blend between uncovering the shadows in your psyche, in your lower self, and writing the story that potentially you are terrified to share, but that you must, if you are to truly release yourself from it. I've done a lot of work in the realm of shadow work, in the realms of, working in the unconscious. I'm an RTT, rapid transformational therapy therapist, which is a form of hypnotherapy, and entering into the realms of the unconscious and facing and finding the shadows is some of the most powerful and profound work I've ever done personally and professionally. So I'm very, very, very excited about blending these two things together, blending the world of shadow work with the world of communications, writing, creativity, and publishing. So the invitation is there. We kick off mid-October, and maybe we've got a few people here who are authors. If you guys want to pop in some of your experiences from being in this project with me, the Warriors of Light project, the invitation is to reach out to me if you would like some more information about Threshold, Stories of Initiation. Of course, like all of the other projects, we will publish this book. We will get this book to bestseller. We might have a summit. We might do something a bit different. I'm feeling we'll do something a little bit different to a summit, but it will be simultaneously the process of excavating your story from your unconscious and your shadows, and like working through that aspect of you so that you can release the power that is stored there, and at the same time a visibility container. So this is about what it means to truly be seen on a bigger stage, to find the courage to share your story, to share your vulnerability, to allow yourself to be seen, to find the courage to allow yourself to be seen, both of them together. These projects go for approximately 6 months. So you are in a very beautifully, tightly held field with me. It's very important to me to, really set the energetic tone powerfully for these containers, because so much happens, so much unfolds. It's so difficult to put it into words. But know that if you do decide to be a part of this project, it will be a phenomenally transformational experience. And if you're feeling the call to be published, to share and to write your story, and to really heal at a much deeper level than you ever believed was possible, so that you can free yourself from your story, then please let me know, because I only have a very select amount of spots, And once those spots are gone, the project closes and we kick off with a bang. So that is it. Thank you very much. I'm going to have a look if there's any comments I missed. Walking in your own truth inspires others to do the same. Oh, absolutely. Your work is so powerful, Tash. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, beautiful lady. I know that you've experienced my work on a number of different levels. Being a part of 2 Ashram Publishing books has been life-changing. They transformed my business and my life. I know they did, Jules. And that's also because you found the courage to really go there, Anyway, please find the creative courage to write your sacred soul story, whether you choose to do this with me or not. It is really one of the most powerful ways you can heal and release your story, like release the shackles, so to speak, and really delving into this world of archetypal energies, of symbolism, of the unconscious, looking back over your life at the repeated patterns that have revealed themselves to you, and the core themes of your life. It gives us a much higher, more embodied understanding around what it is that we're actually doing here in this incarnation, in this lifetime, at this precise point in history. I love you. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. Please don't be shy. And if you'd like to know any more information about Threshold, then jump into my DMs and we will chat in there. Alrighty, guys. Take care.